right, so let's get started. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our latest LinkedIn Live session on technology adoption. And today, our focus is on why policy visibility and enforcement is a business problem that can be solved today with the right people, process, and tools. We're going to discuss how BTA and Cisco address this challenge with Cisco Secure Workload, BTA's proven tools, processes, and great people. And I'd also like to introduce to anyone who doesn't know our founder and CEO, Ken Fee.
Hey, everybody.
So, Ken, if you're ready to get started, what do you think are some business reasons customers are deploying CSW?
You know, there's a whole plethora of reasons, but as you said on the intro, policy visibility enforcement has become a hot topic, and it's been a holy grail kind of thing for us for quite a while. And what we've seen over the last few years is that these tools have finally really come into their own and matured to a point where they can make a material difference around risk mitigation, around things like malware and ransomware. I can't tell you how many of those stories I've read in the last year where customers were impacted. They've either lost data, where it was encrypted and they didn't have good backups, or they actually had a cyber risk event where they had to file a claim on their cyber risk insurance. And once that happens, one, their premiums go up, and two, their ability to mitigate those things is just really challenged. And that's really where CSW has brought a lot to the table around the ability to analyze what all the flows in the network look like, not some of the flows, literally all of the flows. And that's through the tetration agent or the CSW agent that gets deployed to workloads. And also CSW's ability to take in data feeds from other sources like network taps, where we can take a point in the network and copy all that traffic and send it over to CSW for analysis. And what we've at BTA have done have wrapped our own tools and processes around this to accelerate the analysis of what is good traffic versus bad traffic. But the business reason for zero trust is really about protecting information, protecting it from being stolen.
Great. So what about acquisition integration? Can you tell me a little bit about that, Ken?
Yeah, that's an awesome use case for CSW. We actually had a customer that we started down a path with them around a CSW deployment. And in the middle of this deployment, they sold a division of their business. But the memorandum of understanding between the divesting party and the acquiring party was that our customer would continue to operate and maintain that environment for the acquiring company for a year. And the customer needed a way to segment those workloads out immediately so that they could say this environment can no longer talk to the core previous corporate environment. And so that solved a real business problem for them. They were able to prove to the buying company that those assets were separate. And that's a divestiture story. Acquisitions, it makes a lot of sense also. So if you're a company that acquires companies, CSW can help you rapidly assess what's going on in the acquired company's IT environment. And you could put similar policies in place that mitigate their ability to impact your current environment, but you're also analyzing what do they have, what do their flows look like, so you can actually cleanly and quickly bring it into your environment. It doesn't take you 1.5 to 2 years. You might be able to do this in a matter of a few months to get that IT integrated much more quickly because you've got real visibility to what the flows look like. And it reduces your risk. It's all about risk reduction.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, that's amazing, just the time to value. Are there any other interesting use cases for CSW that people may not have considered?
Yeah, we actually had a really interesting project customer this last month. Their use case was for their manufacturing facilities, and and these facilities have lots of IoT devices, Internet of Things devices. They're not necessarily something that has an off-the-shelf Windows or Linux distribution. A lot of process control, robots, presses, stamps that all have IP addresses on them, and risk is a big deal. We've seen so many cases of infrastructure getting compromised because the underlying operating systems weren't, they're old. They may be 10, 20, 30 years old, and you can't really do a lot for them. So you have to be really focused in on how you build a security policy within that manufacturing LAN or WAN. And in this customer's case, they treated each manufacturing facility or process as a building, and they'd have a firewall at the building. And so what we did with CSW was to do a TAP or an RSPAN, basically a copy of that data, like I mentioned earlier. Mm-hmm. We took a copy of that data, we piped all that information, all those flows into CSW. We would do application dependency mapping and start to build what a policy should look like. And then we were able to render that back into a form that the customer could use to, one, accelerate their policy analysis. So it didn't take them a few months to figure out what was allowed or not allowed. CSW does a great job of visualizing that. Right. But we were able to take the data out of CSW and put it into a format that they could then use to deploy policy into those firewalls to protect that environment. And the next logical step here is to go in and do, and I would call that a macro segmentation. We're protecting that process from the rest of the world. But even within that process, we could take that to the next level and start segmenting within the building so that if one machine were to be compromised, it couldn't compromise other machines. And that's really where I think you're going to see a lot of innovation in the coming year around how do we help secure those IoT devices. And we actually did a brief blog about this, and we're actually working on a more detailed white paper on what that looks like. But those are some really key use cases, and we also had another customer. They were really concerned around just more zero trust. Zero trust has become a board level initiative. It's not a technical problem that, we'll get around that when we get around to it. Boards of companies care about these things. When they're seeing these companies that get victimized by ransomware and literally have to shut down for 4, 6, 8 weeks to recover and rebuild, that's not tolerable in today's business environment. And so, we had a customer up in we'll call it the Mid-South that had a pair of theirs compromised, and so getting really focused on implementing zero trust at the workload level is a great first step for people. And where we feel like BTA makes a difference here is our ability to help customers rapidly identify what flows are happening in the network, and then be able to create a process that streamlines their policy development and approval so that we can enforce things in a matter of a few weeks versus taking 6, 9, 12 months. Those are just a few things that we've done recently, and it's been an interesting journey, to say the least.
Absolutely. Well, Ken, do you have any last comments? I mean, that was so insightful, and I just I want to know if there's anything just overarching you'd like to say.
Yeah. The thing I'd like to close out with, and we're trying to keep these things short so that they're not 20-minute long blathers, but the point here is that zero trust is an achievable objective. It doesn't have to be this elephant that you're trying to eat in one bite. The only way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. And I say the same thing about zero trust. But when you've got a strategy and a set of tools and processes, it's an achievable objective. It's not an unobtainable goal. We've got a customer we're working with right now on the West Coast. They kind of went into their zero trust journey, but didn't really have a defined endpoint. And once we defined that endpoint, we said, okay, here's the process. Literally in a matter of 4.5 months, we've segmented or enforced, I think, 14 applications for them. And this is something they've been working on for over a year before we got engaged. And it's not just zero trust. It's any complex technology project. And that's really where BTA tries to live, is how do we help customers, one, adopt new technology and realize the benefit, but not, adopting it is one thing. Operationalizing it and integrating it to my day-to-day processes is even more critical. If I've got 3 different new advanced tech systems, but they don't talk to each other, they're not as powerful as they could be. So finding the ties and integration is important. And that's really where BTA focuses on. How do we integrate these complex things together and produce a tangible business benefit? And when it comes to zero trust, partnering with Cisco has been phenomenal. We've been able to get a lot of customers in a much more secure posture very quickly. And we're really excited about where that's going.
Absolutely. And then, we have managed services around CSW as well. We really just love to be involved in what we're doing for our clients. So thank you, Ken. And
Great.
I just want to say in closing that we're currently offering a zero trust workshop where we discuss your current architecture, zero trust best practices. We identify your use cases and provide specific recommendations for your company so that you can act on those things and have a completely established zero trust policy environment. And you can register at the link in the comments of the event. And we'll also be sharing that link on LinkedIn, at other times. But please go ahead and register for that. It's really valuable. And thank you so much for joining. Thank you,
Thank
Ken.
you. Appreciate everybody's time.